Hi, my name is Jeanette and I want to thank you for joining me on the channel Jane Reads. So today I'm going to start a new segment on my channel. I follow a few book blogs and a couple of them that I follow do a top 10 Tuesday segment. So the top 10 books that have a certain theme. And I thought, oh, that's really cool. I like that. And then I was watching Krista over at Books and Jams, and on her channel, she does a segment called Shelf Spotlight every once in a while, where she talks about books that have a certain theme or certain thing on the cover are related in some way. And I thought, well, that's cool. Let's maybe do that. So I messaged her and said, hey, do you mind if I do this on my channel? And she said, no, go ahead. So I got this idea from her and from the blogs that I follow. Now, I'm not always going to have 10 books to talk about. For example, I only have 7 today. So I didn't want to do like a top 10. So that's why I really liked the shelf spotlight idea. So I want to do this once a month with different themes. So probably it will be something on the cover or something in the title that kind of all relate to each other. We'll kind of see where this goes. So today for June, I thought I would start with brides on the cover or wedding dresses on the cover. I always think of June as wedding month. Ever since I saw the movie Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, which is one of my favorite musicals, there is a song in there that talks about a June bride. And if you're married in June, you're a bride for life. I love that song. Now, I didn't get married in June, but my brother and sister-in-law did. And I remember when they set their wedding date, my sister-in-law Liz and I had a conversation about, hey, you're a June bride. You're going to be a bride for all your life. So I thought, well, why not start with this? And I have read 7 books that all have kind of wedding dress themed covers. So I thought, hey, let's do this. So I'm going to only talk about books that I have read and that I have enjoyed. Well, I might talk about, in future segments, I might talk about books that are on my TBR. But for this one, I don't have any books that I own that fit this theme. So all the books I'm going to talk about are on my Kindle, so I will have to insert pictures here for them. I printed off my notes so that my laptop wasn't on, so I'm trying to help with the reflection, but we'll see. I should look at contacts maybe, right? No, I like my glasses. I love my glasses. So the first book I'm going to talk about is, when I think of wedding dress covers or wedding dresses on the cover, this is the first book that comes to my mind. It's The Isaac Project by Sarah Monzon. I absolutely love this cover. And this cover definitely made me buy this book and read this book. I had never read anything by Sarah before. As soon as I saw this, I'm like, that just looked so good. And then it sounded interesting. I'm like, let's try it. And it is one of my favorite books. So this is a contemporary romance. Becky's life unravels in a single day. Not only does she catch her boyfriend with another woman, she receives the news that her grandfather, the man who raised her, is dying. His last wish, to see her happily married. Heartbroken, Becky seeks inspiration in the pages of the Holy Scriptures and finds it in the story of Isaac and Rebecca. With commitment, their only foundation, can an arranged marriage find happiness in the 21st century? As I mentioned, I love this book. I have read this book twice, and that probably won't be the last time I read it. I have loved it both times. The book opens with Becky excited about her Poppy's birthday, but as the day progresses, things turn from bad to worse. Then she comes up with this crazy plan for what she thinks will make her Poppy happy. Taking inspiration from the biblical story of Isaac and Rebecca, she asks her best friend to find her a husband. What happens when 2 strangers come together and try to build a future? I loved Luke. He is a godly man trying to live as God wants, and a firefighter. He agrees to move across the country to marry a complete stranger. He ends up falling in love with Becky and tries to show her his love through everyday things. But Becky has been hurt by men in the past, and something happens to make her doubt Luke. But instead of talking to him about it, she bottles it up, and it hardens her heart every day. When she finds out it is all a misunderstanding, she fears she might have already lost him. Can she save this relationship? Luke's uncle tells him that love is a choice and needs to be worked at every day, and some days will be easier than others. This really got me thinking about my relationships with others. Do I, or am I willing to put in the work that is required to keep my relationship strong? I loved this perspective on love. The characters were easy to like, and I loved the story was told from both points of view. So the next book is also by Sarah Monzon. It is called The Esther Paradigm, and again, you see a bride on the cover. It is another contemporary romance. So Hannah dreams of starting a school for the Bodian clan she grew up with as a missionary kid, and finds her hopes are finally coming true. But shortly after returning to the desert from her college years in the U.S., she discovers her parents have received threats from their Muslim neighbors. As the danger escalates, Hannah finds she's in the middle of a battle no one seems to understand. She must decide what lengths she'll go to stay faithful to the mission and to which God has called her, even if it costs her everything. As Sheikh, Karim feels the weight of the responsibility as a leader of his people. When a mysterious illness ravishes the clan's flocks and threatens to destroy their way of life, locals believe the American doctors and their daughter Hannah are responsible. Karim must do something to keep them safe, even if the only solution can be found within marriage vows. In a society where the line is drawn between us and them, Christianity is outlawed and foreigners are mistrusted. Will their union heal wounds or inflict the final fatal blow? This book was so good. I did not want to put it down. What begins as a marriage of convenience grows into so much more. I absolutely loved Karim and Hannah. They come from two different cultures, but are committed to the same people and are willing to share their lives and work together to overcome the obstacles they face. There is romance, danger, and cultural challenges throughout. Karim's love for Hannah is obvious right from the beginning, and he is willing to accept any backlash from his tribe for his choice of bride. Hannah believes that Karim only married her to protect her and her parents. She fights feelings of insecurity throughout, but she is so much stronger than she realizes. She is determined to respect the culture around her and Karim's beliefs, but does not shy away from sharing her beliefs. Both are tested and have to decide what is important to them. I loved following them as their friendship grew into a marriage commitment and then the ultimate realization of deep love. Each character felt genuine. There were many wonderful moments that made me just love this book. The romantic moments were great and had me swooning at times, but also the friendship shared with others and the sharing of God's love was inspiring. Mixed throughout, there were many scenes or sayings that had me laughing out loud. I won't forget the line, "I am not singing the song that never ends to the camels." I cracked up so hard when I read this. I loved that Sarah took a Bible story and used it as inspiration to create this story. With the book being set in another country, focusing on the Muslim faith, it is obvious that a lot of research went into the story to make the characters feel real and genuine. I highly recommend this book and will definitely be savoring it again. So then the next three books I have to mention are part of the Wedding Collection by Rachel Hawk. So the first one is The Wedding Dress. I mean, I couldn't have a wedding dress themed video without mentioning this book, right? So this is a dual timeline. It's 4 brides, 1 dress, a tale of faith, redemption, and timeless love. Charlotte owns a Birmingham bridal boutique. Dressing brides for their big day is her gift and her passion. But with her own wedding day approaching, why can't she find the perfect dress or feel certain that she should marry Tim? Then Charlotte discovers a vintage dress in a battered trunk at an estate sale. It looks brand new, shimmering with pearls and satin, hand-stitched and timeless in its design. But where did it come from? Who wore it? Who welded the lock shut? Charlotte's search for the gown's history and its new bride begins as a distraction from her sputtering love life, but it takes on a life of its own as she comes to know the women who have worn the dress. I recently shared about this book in my May wrap-up. May was my second time reading it. When I first read it back in 2014, it was my first introduction to a dual timeline story. At the time, I didn't read much historical fiction, so I hadn't expected it to capture my heart like it did. I enjoyed the way the story was presented from the different points of view. The switching between characters and time periods was well done, and I never felt lost of who I was following or what time period I was in. I loved the mystery of trying to find out where the dress came from and who had worn it, and how it turned into so much more for Charlotte. I really connected with Emily and Charlotte and was frustrated with the actions of certain characters. However, one particular character did redeem himself in my eyes by the end. I really enjoyed the symbolism of God being the perfect fit for everyone, just like the dress was a perfect fit for all these women without needing alterations. It was a great message. The second book in this collection is called The Wedding Chapel. So rather than like a dress, this is kind of showing a veil. It is another dual timeline. A lonely wedding chapel built as a tribute to lost love just might hold the long-awaited secret to hope and reconciliation. So this is a sneak peek here. This was the first book that I finished this month in June, so it will be included in my June wrap-up, but I'll share about it here. I've reread this book now twice, and probably loved it more the second time than I did the first time. I first read this in 2016, so I had forgotten a large portion of the story, and I did not want to put it down. I was so invested in all the characters. The story is told from 4 points of view and covers 2 time periods, 1948 and 2015. There are 2 central couples. One set is a young newlywed adjusting to married life. The other is 2 individuals in their 80s who used to be young lovers but are no longer together. The story intrigued me right from the beginning. At first, there doesn't really seem to be a connection between the 2 sets of couples, but as you get further into the story, the connection becomes clearer. Closer to the end, there was a moment where something's revealed that just took me by surprise. A good surprise. But it made me love the story that much more. The story speaks of the danger of secrets, learning to forgive, learning to express your feelings, and overcoming the past. I especially enjoyed experiencing the 4 points of view, but I loved Jack and Taylor's story. This is a must-read for anyone who loves romance. So the third book in this collection is The Wedding Shop. 2 women, separated by decades, both set out to help others find their dreams when their own have crumbled. This book is another dual timeline story and weaves together in a way that I did not expect. The historical part of the story is set in the 1930s, with Cora trying to keep her wedding shop open during the Great Depression. The present-day timeline focuses on Haley, who is trying to reopen the wedding shop after it's been closed for more than 30 years. The story is told from various points of view, and I love getting multiple perspectives as it allows me to get to know the characters that much more. Cora is so blinded by love for a riverboat captain that she can't see a love that is right in front of her. Will she get a happily ever after? Will the wedding shop owner get to wear her own wedding dress? Even though Haley has closed herself off to love, she is determined to get the wedding shop open. However, there are obstacles in her way. Can she get the shop open? And will she find love in the process? I enjoyed how the story shares the message that Jesus is always there for us through everything. How he can take our baggage and turn it into something beautiful. I fell in love with all 4 main characters. I experienced so many emotions, was on the verge of tears at times, and awing at the sweet moments. I was not expecting the story to weave together the way it did. It was a very pleasant surprise. This book does incorporate details from The Wedding Dress and The Wedding Chapel. It could be read as a standalone, but I recommend reading the other 2 first. I have not read this one yet, during this reread of this series, but I do plan on reading it this year. So the next book is Marrying Mandy by Melanie D. Sniker. So again, you can kind of see the wedding dress. It is another contemporary romance. Mandy swore she'd never marry. When her grandmother dies, Mandy's shocked to discover a stipulation in the will. Considering marriage to her best friend may be the only way to keep her family's beloved bed and breakfast. The loss of his job threatens Preston's financial stability. Besides, he can't watch his best friend give up the only real home she's ever known. Frustrated by Mandy's stubborn refusal to let him help, he's certain they are stronger together than they are apart. A marriage convenience might be crazy, or an answer to both their prayers. If it's not obvious, I really enjoy marriage convenience stories. And this is another one. Preston has loved Mandy since they were young and will do anything to help her save what is important to her. Mandy sees Preston as just a friend and only agrees to his proposal because of the stipulation in the will. I loved Preston. He showed a Christ-like love for Mandy, the willingness to love her and be there for her even if she couldn't return his love. He sacrificed his dreams for her. Mandy was hard to like at the beginning. She was bitter, a bit whiny, and a bit selfish, not really understanding what Preston was doing for her. However, over the course of the story, she matures and eventually comes to accept and return Preston's love. This was a sweet story where the characters learn about God's grace. The last book I have to talk about is The Christmas Bargain by Shannon Hatfield. This is a historical romance, and it is another comfort read for me. I've read this book 3 times, and I've loved it each time. And I'm sure I will read it again, maybe even this coming Christmas season. We'll see. It's just one that just gives me warm feelings. I love the characters of Luke and Philly and the way their story blooms. I was hooked from the opening lines. Luke, the local banker, goes to Philly's house to collect a debt. When her father is unable to pay, he gives Philly to Luke as payment. Luke agrees to take Philly just to get her away from her father. They agree to get married for propriety's sake. Philly will serve as the housekeeper and cook, and Luke will protect her from her father. As they get to know one another, their relationship grows from acquaintances to friends to love, and not being able to imagine life without one another. However, will they share their feelings with each other, or will they stay with their current agreement? I loved watching their relationship bloom and felt like I was experiencing day-to-day life with them. The descriptions are so well done that I easily pictured this western town. Felt like I could reach out and touch the horses, walk the streets, and smell the baking. Luke's good friends, Chauncey and Abby, added a level of friendship and entertainment to the story. They were warm and welcoming to Philly from the time they met her. The way they encouraged Philly warmed my heart. This book made me fall in love with the town of Hardman and its residents. This is the first book in the Harmon Holidays series, and there are currently 9 in this series, and I really enjoyed majority of them. So those are kind of the 7 books that I've read that have wedding dresses on the cover or a part of a wedding dress on the cover, and that I would highly recommend reading to get kind of the wedding warm feelings. Are there any books that you've read, when I say wedding dress, that you think of right away? So please let me know in the comments below. Let me know if you've read any of these or just anything you want to say. I'd love to chat with you below. Thank you for joining me. Have a good day. Bye.